Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new here. I'm James, and tonight, man, I've got something wild to share. What you're about to hear happened to me just a few days ago. On March 21st, 2025, in this creepy little town called Hollow Creek, Arkansas. I'm a cop, or was, I guess, and I swear, this is no ghost story for fun. This is real, and it's messed me up bad. We're diving into the scariest night of my life. Trapped in a house that, well, you'll see. If you're into true horror, stuff that'll keep you up at night, stick around. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Smack that like if you feel the chills. And ring that bell so you don't miss what's next. All right, let's get into it. Buckle up, because this one's a nightmare. I don't know why I'm even writing this. Maybe to get it out of my head. Maybe because I need someone to believe me. I've been a cop for over a decade. But nothing in my years on the force, nothing prepared me for what I experienced in Hollow Creek. It's been months since I left that town, and yet, every time I close my eyes, I still see it. The empty streets, the thick fog rolling in at dusk, the way the town itself seemed to breathe, like it was something alive. People warned me about the rules. I didn't listen, and I paid for it. Hollow Creek is the kind of place you'd drive past without a second thought. A tiny town in the middle of nowhere, buried deep in the Arkansas woods, with a population so small, it barely qualifies as a dot on the map. I took the deputy job because I needed a fresh start, a quiet life. But from the moment I arrived, something felt off. The way people stared just a second too long. The way the sheriff handed me a handwritten list of rules my first day on the job. His eyes dark with something I couldn't place. Follow them, he said. No exceptions. At first the rules seemed ridiculous. Do not patrol past the old church after midnight. If the payphone on Main Street rings, do not answer it. Never, under any circumstances, go near the water tower after 3:33 a.m. Some of them were oddly specific, others vague, to the point of absurdity. I figured it was some local superstition, small-town paranoia. I'd worked in the city long enough to know that cops sometimes made up weird traditions rituals to make the job feel less soul-crushing. But Hollow Creek's rules weren't like that. They weren't jokes. They were warnings, and I found that out the hard way. It happened on my third night. I was driving the back roads, getting familiar with the area, when my radio crackled to life. Unit 4, report your location, came the sheriff's voice. There was something in his tone, urgency, maybe even fear. I reached for the radio to answer, but then, in my peripheral vision, I saw movement, a shadow, something darting between the trees just off the road. I hit the brakes, my heart hammering. It wasn't an animal. Too tall, too fast. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out, scanning the tree line. That's when I realized where I was. The old church. The place I wasn't supposed to be after midnight. And my watch. 12:07 a.m. A cold wave of dread hit me the moment I stepped away from the car. The air felt wrong thick, heavy, like walking into a room where someone had just been talking about you. My flashlight flickered as I swept it over the trees. Nothing. Just swaying branches and the distant sound of cicadas. But then I saw it. The church doors were open. Not wide, just a crack, but enough to show a sliver of darkness inside. I knew, deep down, that I shouldn't go any closer. That every instinct in my body was screaming at me to turn around. But I was a cop. My job was to investigate. So I stepped forward. The second my foot hit the church steps, the radio on my shoulder let out a burst of static so loud I nearly jumped out of my skin. Get back in your car, the sheriff's voice barked. Now, his tone left no room for argument. I didn't even have time to respond before something moved inside the church. Not footsteps, something dragging. A long, slow scrape against the wooden floor. My breath caught in my throat. The flashlight flickered again, and for the briefest second, I saw something just beyond the doorway. A figure, tall, unnaturally thin, and staring right at me. I didn't think Guy just moved. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over my own feet as I turned and bolted for the car. My pulse pounded in my ears, drowning out everything except the sheer, primal instinct to get the hell away. I yanked the door open, threw myself inside, and locked it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. But before I could start the engine, I heard it. A slow, deliberate knock on the passenger window. 3 times. I couldn't look. I wouldn't. Every muscle in my body screamed to keep my eyes forward, to not acknowledge whatever was standing just inches away from me. The sheriff's voice crackled over the radio again, low and urgent. "Drive," he said. "Do not look. Do not stop. Drive." My fingers gripped the wheel so tight they ached. I slammed my foot on the gas, tires screeching against the gravel as I tore down the road. In the mirror, I saw the church one last time. The doors were still open, but now the figure was outside, standing in the middle of the road, watching me leave. I didn't slow down until I was well past the town limits, the glow of Hollow Creek's streetlights shrinking in my rear view. My heart was still hammering, my hands slick with sweat on the wheel. The rational part of my brain tried to make sense of it. Maybe it was a trick of the light. Maybe I had let the creepy atmosphere get to me. But deep down, I knew better. I knew what I saw. That thing outside the church wasn't human. And worse, it knew I had seen it. When I finally pulled into the station, the sheriff was waiting for me out front, arms crossed, his face unreadable. I barely had the car in park before I got out, breathing hard. "What the hell was that?" I demanded. "Who was he?" held up a hand, cutting me off. "You broke a rule," he said, like that was the only explanation needed. And maybe, in this town, it was. He sighed, rubbing a hand down his face. "Go home, Carson. Get some rest, but keep your lights on tonight." I wanted to push for answers, but something in his expression stopped me. He wasn't just warning me, he was preparing me. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the figure outside the church, too tall, too thin, its head tilted like it was studying me. My apartment felt wrong, like the walls were pressing in just a little too tight. I kept every light on, just like the sheriff told me, but even that didn't help. At some point, exhaustion took over, and I drifted off. I don't know how long I was asleep before I woke up to the sound of knocking. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. My stomach dropped. It was coming from my front door. I didn't move, barely even breathe. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, hoping, praying that whoever was on the other side would just go away. But then it happened again. 3 more knocks, a little louder this time. My skin went ice cold. I reached for my phone to check the time. 3:33 a.m. My pulse pounded in my ears as I stared at the screen, my mind racing. That was one of the rules. If someone knocks 3 times at 3:33 a.m., do not open the door. I gripped my phone so tight my fingers ached. Every part of me wanted to move, to check the peephole, to grab my gun, to do something, but I was frozen. The air in the apartment felt thick, heavy, like I was underwater. Then, just as I was convincing myself it was my imagination, I heard it again. 3 knocks, slow, purposeful, and then a voice. It wasn't loud, just a whisper, but it was right on the other side of the door. "James," it said. My stomach twisted into a knot. Nobody in this town called me James. It was always Carson, always. My breath hitched as the voice came again, softer this time, almost pleading. "James, let me in." I clenched my jaw, squeezing my eyes shut. I knew better. I wasn't stupid. But my body betrayed me, shifted slightly, my foot brushing against the floor. And then, from the other side of the door, whoever or whatever, it was whispered, "I know you're awake." A cold sweat broke out across my back. My mind raced, trying to come up with some rational explanation, but there wasn't one. My apartment was on the 2nd floor, and the only entrance was that door. No balcony, no fire escape. Whoever was out there had no business knowing my name, let alone speaking it in that way like they had known me for years. I forced myself to stay still, barely even breathing, my heart slamming against my ribs. Then, the doorknob turned. I watched in horror as it slowly twisted to the right, stopping just before the latch would release. The metal rattled slightly, like someone was testing the lock. I had locked it. I knew I had. But right then, in that moment, doubt slithered into my mind. Had I locked it properly? My phone was still clutched in my hand, but I didn't dare call anyone. I was afraid that if I made a noise, if I even exhaled too loudly, that thing would hear me. That it would know I was right there, just on the other side. The knob slowly twisted back into place, and then silence. The silence was worse than the knocking. At least when it was making noise, I knew where it was. Now, I had no idea. My ears strained for any sound, breathing, footsteps, anything, but there was nothing. Just the hum of my refrigerator and the distant chirp of night insects outside. For a second I thought maybe it was over. Maybe it had given up. But then I heard it again, only this time. It wasn't coming from the door. It was inside my apartment. A slow, deliberate creak came from the floorboards near the kitchen. My chest tightened. That was impossible. The door had never opened. The locks were still in place. But I knew, deep in my gut, that I wasn't alone anymore. My fingers tightened around my phone, but I didn't dare turn on the screen. If it was dark in here, maybe it wouldn't see me. Maybe it wouldn't know exactly where I was. My breath was coming in short, silent gasps as I listened. Another creak, closer this time. Whatever had knocked on my door was now in my home. I forced myself to stay completely still, my back pressed against the mattress, my breath shallow. My mind raced through every possible explanation and intruder, a trick of my imagination, something rational, but deep down, I knew this was something else, something that didn't need doors to enter. The room felt wrong, like the air had been sucked out, leaving only an oppressive, suffocating weight. I could hear it moving, slow, deliberate steps, as if it was searching, as if it was enjoying this. Then, the footsteps stopped, right next to my bed. I clamped my jaw shut, every muscle in my body locked in place. The sheets barely moved, but I felt it a shift in the air, a presence looming over me. My instincts screamed to keep my eyes closed, but I couldn't help it. I cracked them open, just a sliver, just enough to see. And there it was, a shape, tall, unnaturally thin, a silhouette against the dim glow of the streetlight filtering through the blinds. But the worst part, it was leaning over me, watching, waiting. Every nerve in my body screamed to move, to run, to do anything, but I couldn't. I was trapped in my own skin, frozen in place, like a child hiding from a nightmare. But this wasn't a nightmare, this was real. The thing above me didn't breathe, didn't shift, didn't make a sound. It just stood there, looming over me, its presence thick and suffocating. My mind raced through the rules. What was I supposed to do? Had I broken another one? My thoughts were a frantic blur. But one thing was clear, I couldn't acknowledge it. Then it bent closer. The bed creaked under its weight as it pressed down. Its face, or what should have been a face, now inches from mine. I couldn't see details, just darkness. A void where a person's features should be. A whisper, barely audible, slithered through the stillness. James, my stomach clenched. I squeezed my eyes shut again, gripping the sheets like they could somehow protect me. The whisper came again, closer this time, right by my ear. You don't belong here. A shiver ran down my spine so violently I thought I'd start shaking. I didn't belong here. What the hell did that mean? My pulse pounded in my ears, drowning out everything except the suffocating silence pressing in around me. I could feel it there, inches away, its presence like a thick shadow seeping into my skin. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to fight, to do something, but I knew that any movement, any sound, would be a mistake. It was waiting for me to react. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, it was gone. The pressure in the room lifted, like an invisible weight had been yanked away. The air still felt thick, but I could breathe again. My ears rang in the silence. I forced my eyes open, barely daring to move. The space beside my bed was empty. No shape, no shadow, nothing. But the room didn't feel right. It was like something had shifted, like the walls weren't in the same place anymore. Slowly, carefully, I reached for my phone and turned on the screen. 3:34 a.m. 1 minute past the time in the rule. 1 minute too late. My thumb hovered over the call button. I wanted to dial the sheriff, to tell him that something had broken the rules, that I had broken the rules. But what the hell would I even say? That something had been in my apartment, that it had whispered my name. My hand was shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to breathe, to think. The rules existed for a reason. I had ignored one, and now something had noticed me. Then I heard it again. The knocking. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. But this time, it wasn't at the door. It was coming from the closet. My blood turned to ice. The door was closed. I knew it had been closed, but now, in the dim light of my phone screen, I saw it. The slightest crack, not open enough to see inside, just enough to tell me that something, at some point, had moved it. I didn't want to know what would happen if I let it open all the way. My breath hitched as I gripped the sheets, every muscle locking up as I heard the sound of something shifting inside. I couldn't take my eyes off the closet door. It was such a small gap, barely noticeable, but my gut told me it was wrong. It wasn't just slightly open, it had been left that way on purpose, like an invitation. My breathing felt too loud in the silence, every exhale threatening to give me away. My fingers curled tighter around my phone, the screen's dim glow casting faint shadows against the walls. I didn't dare shine the flashlight. I didn't want to see what might be staring back. Then, the door creaked. Not much, just a fraction of an inch. But it was enough. Enough to send a jolt of pure, ice-cold fear through my body. Something was inside, something that had waited, patient and unmoving, while I lay in bed, pretending I was safe. My mind screamed at me to do something, anything, but I was paralyzed. And then, from the darkness of the closet, I heard it, the same voice from before. But this time, it wasn't a whisper. It was right there, right next to me. "You left it open, James." A sharp, involuntary gasp escaped my throat before I could stop it. My body reacted before my brain did die, scrambled backward, pressing myself against the headboard, my phone slipping from my grip and landing somewhere on the bed. The room was dark again, except for the faint sliver of light from the street lamp outside. But even in the dim glow, I could see it. A shape, shifting ever so slightly in the darkness of the closet. Not stepping forward, not moving toward me, just waiting. The rules? I had broken another one. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to think through the panic. What was the rule about the closet? Hadn't someone mentioned it? If the closet door is open in the morning, shut it and don't look inside. But this wasn't morning, and I hadn't opened it. My breathing came faster now, panic creeping up my spine like cold fingers. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, until finally, something changed. A deep, guttural sound almost like a chuckle came from inside. Slow, mocking, whatever was in there. It was enjoying this. I had to do something. Just sitting there, waiting, was making it worse. My fingers fumbled through the sheets until I found my phone. The screen still lit up, a lifeline in the darkness. I wanted to call the sheriff, to wake someone up, to hear another human voice, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. What if speaking out loud made it worse? What if it was waiting for me to acknowledge it? My thumb hovered over the flashlight icon. One tap, and I'd see. But did I want to? Another sound, low and wet, slithered through the room. A breath, dragging from deep inside the closet. I sucked in air, every nerve in my body telling me to run. But where? The only way out was past the closet, and I wasn't stepping foot near that door. The voice had spoken my name. It knew me, knew I didn't belong here. The thought churned in my gut like sickness. If I had just followed the rules, none of this would be happening. But it was too late for that now. The only thing I could do was survive. I gritted my teeth, steadied my shaking hand, and tapped the flashlight on. The beam of light cut through the darkness, hitting the closet door. For a split second, nothing looked out of place. Just my clothes, a few boxers on the floor. But then, my stomach dropped. There was something else. Low to the ground, just past the hanging shirts, I saw a tall pair of hands. Pale, almost gray, fingers too long, resting flat against the wooden floor like a spider waiting to lunge. They didn't move. They didn't twitch. They just sat there, impossibly still. My breathing turned shallow. Then the hands began to slide forward. Not crawling, not shifting, just gliding. As if whatever they belonged to wasn't using muscles or bones to move. I sucked in a sharp breath, barely holding back a gasp as my brain screamed at me to shut the door. But I couldn't move. My body refused to respond. The hands inched closer, reaching the threshold. The tips of the fingers just brushing the floor outside the closet. And then, from deep in the shadows, something else moved. A shape, rising taller. A face or the absence of one began to emerge. I barely held back a strangled noise as the figure straightened, its head tilting in a way that felt unnatural, studying me. The light from my phone flickered slightly, no, not flickered, dimmed, as if the thing was absorbing it, drinking it in. My heart slammed against my ribs, a primal terror clawing at my insides. The rules, James. Think. But my mind was blank, wiped clean by the sheer wrongness of what I was seeing. The thing didn't have eyes, just smooth, featureless skin stretched too tight over its skull. And yet, I knew it was looking right at me. Then, it moved. Not fast, not lunging, just stepping forward, deliberate and patient, like it had all the time in the world. My breath came in short, panicked bursts. I had to do something. I forced myself to move, to react, my muscles finally obeying as I lunged for the closet door. My fingers curled around the handle, and I yanked it shut with a loud, echoing slam. The room went silent, too silent. I braced for impact, for banging, for something to start clawing at the door, but nothing came. No sound, no movement, just the deafening quiet pressing in around me, heavy and wrong. I stood there, my hands still gripping the closet doorknob so tightly my knuckles ached. My whole body was locked in place, waiting for a sound, for movement, for some sign that it was still there. But there was nothing. The silence stretched on, thick and unnatural. It wasn't the kind of quiet you get in the dead of night when the world is asleep. No, this was something else, like the air itself was holding its breath, like the house was listening. Then, slowly, the doorknob turned. Not a sudden yank, not frantic rattling, just a smooth, deliberate motion, as if the thing inside was testing it, reminding me that it wasn't gone. My stomach twisted, my legs screaming at me to run, but I couldn't. The rules. If the closet door is open in the morning, shut it and don't look inside. But what if it opened at night? Was I supposed to do something different? I didn't know. And that uncertainty was worse than anything. My breath hitched as I pressed my weight against the door, my pulse hammering in my ears. The knob stopped turning. Then, just as slowly as it had started, it turned back. I stayed like that for what felt like hours. My body pressed against the door, barely breathing. My skin felt damp with sweat, my muscles screaming from the tension. But I didn't dare move. My mind raced through the possibilities. Was it still in there? Had it left? Was it standing on the other side of the door, waiting for me to make a mistake? The silence was suffocating. I strained my ears, desperate for any sound. But there was nothing. Nothing but my own heartbeat, hammering so loudly it felt like the whole house could hear it. Then, somewhere inside the closet, something exhaled. It was deep, slow, almost amused, like it knew exactly how much fear it had buried into me. I clenched my jaw, forcing my trembling hands to move. I reached for the small wooden chair near the bed and, as carefully as I could, dragged it against the floor, wedging it under the doorknob. It wasn't much, but it was something. My hand shook as I backed away, my eyes locked on the door. My phone buzzed suddenly in my hand, making me jump. A message. Sheriff Holloway. 3 words, simple and cold. Don't open it. My throat went dry as I stared at the message. How did he know? Had he seen something? Or did he just know? My fingers hovered over the screen, unsure of what to even type back. Was this part of the rules? Was I supposed to stay put? Wait until morning? Act like nothing happened? The weight of the silence pressed down on me again, heavier than before. I didn't want to stay in this room. Every fiber of my being told me I needed to get out. But the thought of passing by that closet, of getting too close to whatever was on the other side, sent ice down my spine. Then, something scratched against the wood. A long, slow, drag-like nails tracing lazily down the inside of the door. My body locked up again, my pulse roaring in my ears. It wasn't trying to break out. It wasn't pounding or shaking the door. It was playing with me, testing me, seeing how much I could take before I snapped. My breath hitched as I forced my legs to move, inching backward toward the bedroom door. I had to get out. I didn't care about the rules anymore. Whatever was inside that closet wasn't supposed to be here, and neither was I. I reached the bedroom door, my hand fumbling for the knob, desperate to get out. The second my fingers wrapped around it, the scratching inside the closet stopped. The air in the room turned heavy, suffocating, as if the thing inside knew exactly what I was trying to do. My skin prickled with the unbearable feeling of being watched, even though I knew damn well that thing didn't have eyes. My breathing turned shallow, and for a second I hesitated. Was leaving worse than staying? Had I already broken too many rules? Then the doorknob turned, but not the one I was holding. The closet door twisted violently, the chair beneath it creaking as it held barely. My heart jumped into my throat. The thing wasn't playing anymore. It wanted out. The wood groaned as pressure pushed from the other side, the chair legs scraping against the floor inch by inch. I didn't wait to see if it would hold. I yanked open the bedroom door and bolted into the hallway, the old floorboards groaning beneath my weight. I didn't care about being quiet anymore. I didn't care about waking the others. I just needed to get out of that house before whatever was in that closet found a way to follow me. The hallway was dark, too dark. The old house didn't have many lights, but there should have been something, even just the faint glow from a window. Instead, it felt like the darkness was swallowing everything. My breath came in short, panicked bursts as I stumbled forward, my feet barely touching the ground. I needed to get outside. That was the only thought in my head. Get outside, get away. But as I passed the bathroom, something caught my eye, a reflection in the mirror. I shouldn't have looked, but instinct took over, and my gaze flicked toward the glass. At first, it was just me witted, pale, drenched in sweat. But behind me, near the open doorway of my room, something else moved. It wasn't fully formed, more like a smudge, a distortion in the air, shifting unnaturally. And then the closet door burst open. I didn't hear it, I felt it. The pressure in the air shifted, the temperature dropped in an instant, and my reflection, my own damn reflection, smiled at me. But I wasn't smiling. I tore my gaze away from the mirror and ran, not walked, not hesitated. I ran like my life depended on it because I was sure it did. The house stretched around me in ways that didn't feel right, the hallways seeming longer, the walls pressing in. The air was thick, suffocating, like I was running through something unseen, something alive. My feet pounded against the wooden floor, my breath ragged, my pulse hammering so loudly I couldn't hear anything else. But then the whispers started, soft at first, like wind through dead leaves, a murmur just beneath the surface of hearing. But as I neared the stairs, the voices grew sharper, clearer. They were saying my name, not just once, but over and over, overlapping, twisting, distorting. Some were flat, emotionless. Others sounded like they were grinning, amused, as if this was all just some sick joke. I hit the top step and nearly lost my balance as the wooden boards beneath me buckled, the whole house groaning like it was waking up. The whispers turned to laughter, low, breathy, wrong. I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. I lunged forward, gripping the railing to steady myself. My only thought now, a desperate, singular need get out before the house decides to keep me. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my legs burning, the wood beneath me creaking and shifting like it was alive. The laughter followed me, echoing in my ears, inside my head, like something had slithered into my thoughts and made itself comfortable. I gritted my teeth, shoving past the dizziness, past the overwhelming sense that I was running in a direction that wasn't really there anymore. The front door was just ahead, barely visible in the dim light from outside. Almost there, almost safe. Then, the floor split open beneath me. Not like wood breaking or snapping, it pulled apart. Like a mouth, like something underneath had been waiting, watching, and now it was hungry. My foot barely caught the edge of the last step as I flung myself forward, fingers scraping against the old door. The gap beneath me wasn't just darkness, it was something else. Something moving, shifting, writhing in a way that made my stomach churn. I didn't dare look down. If I looked down, I knew I wouldn't be able to pull my gaze away. I didn't waste time thinking. I lunged for the door. My hands fumbled at the lock, shaking so hard I could barely grip the old metal. The thing beneath the floor whispered now, not in words, but in a wet, gurgling sound that made my stomach turn. The house shuddered, the walls groaning like they were breathing, like they were watching. My fingers finally found the bolt. I yanked it free. The door didn't open. A rush of cold air slammed into my back, knocking the breath from my lungs. It felt like a hand no. Hundreds of hands gripping, clawing, pulling. The pressure yanked me backward, my feet sliding on the warped wood. I dug my nails into the doorframe, gasping, fighting whatever was trying to drag me into the dark. The thing beneath the floor let out a low, rattling laugh. I didn't want to turn around. I didn't want to see what was holding me. But something told me if I looked, if I truly saw it, I'd never leave this house again. I squeezed my eyes shut and did the only thing I could die through my entire weight against the door, slamming my shoulder into the old wood with everything I had left. For a second, nothing happened. The pressure behind me grew stronger, pulling harder, the cold sinking into my skin like needles of ice. Then the door burst open. I didn't fall forward like I expected. I was thrown. Something unseen, something desperate, hurled me out onto the porch like it was done with me. I hit the ground hard, gravel biting into my palms, the wind knocked from my chest, and then silence. No whispers, no laughter, no pulling hands, just a distant hum of crickets and the rustling of wind through the trees. My breath came in ragged gasps as I pushed myself up, my entire body trembling. The house just stood there, dark, silent, innocent, like none of it had ever happened. But I knew the truth. I had felt it. I had almost been taken by it. And worst of all, as I sat there, staring at that damn house, I had the overwhelming sense that it was watching me back. I scrambled to my feet, my legs unsteady beneath me. The air outside felt different, thinner, colder, wrong, like stepping out of deep water and realizing the world had changed while you were under. I wanted to run, to get as far away from that cursed house as possible, but something held me there. Something deeper than fear, curiosity. Or maybe it was the house itself, still pulling at me, even from a distance. My gaze drifted to the open door, the pitch-black interior yawning like a gaping wound in the night. It should have been empty. It should have been just a house. But deep in that darkness, I swear to God, I saw movement. And then the door slammed shut. Not like a gust of wind had caught it. Not like the old hinges had given out. It slammed with force, with purpose, like something inside had made a choice. My breath hitched in my throat. The porch creaked beneath me, the sound impossibly loud in the dead silence. I took one shaky step back, then another. I wasn't welcome here anymore. Hell, maybe I never was. My body finally caught up with my instincts, and before I could stop myself, I turned and ran, not looking back. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. My hands were shaking so badly that it took me 3 tries to get the damn key into the ignition. When the engine finally roared to life, I didn't waste a second. Dived threw it into reverse and peeled out of there so fast, the tires kicked up a cloud of dust and gravel. My pulse pounded in my ears, my breaths ragged, my whole body still buzzing with adrenaline. But even as I sped down that long, empty road, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. The rearview mirror. I knew better than to look. I knew. But something deep inside me, the same reckless curiosity that had brought me to that house in the first place, forced my eyes upward. And there, in the mirror, I saw it. The house, standing at the end of that dark road, just where I left it. But something was different. Something was wrong. The porch light, which had been broken when I arrived, was now glowing with a sickly yellow light. And worse, the front door was wide open again. I didn't sleep that night. Hell, I don't even remember blinking. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone gripped so tightly in my hand that my fingers went numb. The sheriff's message was still on the screen. Don't open it. I stared at those 3 words, my breathing shallow, my mind racing. Outside, the town was silent. No cars passing, no late-night drunks stumbling home, not even the usual hum of insects. Just an unnatural stillness, like the world itself was holding its breath. My apartment felt smaller, the walls pressing in, the air thick with something I couldn't name. I kept expecting the knocking to return, for the closet door to creak open on its own, for whatever was in there to make its next move. But nothing happened, and that was somehow worse. At some point, I must have blacked out, because the next thing I remember was my phone vibrating in my lap. It was morning. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, casting long shadows across the floor. For a split second, I almost believed it was over until I saw the closet. The chair I had shoved under the doorknob was gone. Not tipped over, not broken, just gone. The door was shut, exactly as it had been before, but I knew it had opened. I knew I hadn't imagined it. My skin went cold as I forced myself to stand, my legs weak beneath me. I should have left, packed my bags, gotten the hell out of Hollow Creek without looking back. But I didn't, because as much as I hated to admit it, the fear was tangled with something else, something more dangerous. Curiosity. I moved toward the closet slowly, every nerve in my body on edge. My breath felt too loud in the silence, my heartbeat hammering in my ears. I reached out, fingers hesitating just inches from the doorknob. It looked the same as before, worn brass, slightly loose from the doorframe, nothing out of the ordinary. But I knew better. The house knew better. My gut told me to turn around, walk away, pretend like I never saw anything. Instead, I grabbed the knob and twisted. The door swung open with a soft creak, revealing nothing, just my clothes hanging neatly, a few boxers stacked in the corner. But the air inside was different, stale, wrong. It smelled like damp wood and something else, something faint but unmistakable. Blood. I stepped back, my stomach twisting. I hadn't seen anything inside, but I could feel it. Like whatever had been there last night was still watching, still waiting. I swallowed hard, trying to shake the feeling creeping up my spine. That's when I noticed the floorboards. One of them, near the back of the closet, was slightly raised, barely noticeable, but enough that it caught my eye. Kneeling down, I ran my fingers along the edge, feeling the uneven surface. It moved just a little, like it had been lifted and hastily put back in place. My pulse spiked. The rational part of my brain screamed to leave it alone, to walk out of that apartment and never come back. But that other part, the one that had gotten me into this mess in the first place, told me I had to see. With a deep breath, I wedged my fingers under the loose floorboard and pulled. It resisted at first, like it didn't want to be moved, but then it gave way with a quiet pop. Beneath it, there was a small, hollow space, too small to be a storage compartment, too intentional to be an accident. Inside, wrapped in what looked like old, brittle cloth, was a bundle of something soft. My throat tightened as I reached in, the fabric crumbling under my touch, revealing what lay inside. Hair, long, dark strands tangled together, matted with something that had dried into a rust-colored crust. And beneath the hair bone, small, human, a child's skull. I shot back so fast I nearly knocked myself over. My breath came in short, ragged gasps, as my brain tried to process what I was seeing. Someone had hidden this here, buried it beneath the floor of my closet like a secret they hoped would never be found. My stomach twisted, bile rising in my throat. I had dealt with bodies before, crime scenes, murders, but this was different. This was personal. My hand shook as I reached for my phone, fumbling to dial the sheriff. But before I could press the call button, a sound cut through the silence. Not the knocking this time, not whispers, something worse. A slow, deliberate, creak-like weight shifting against the floorboards. And it wasn't coming from the closet. It was behind me. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked up. My breath caught somewhere in my throat. The sound had been unmistakable, something shifting, something moving inside my apartment. Slowly, as if any sudden motion might trigger whatever was behind me, I turned my head just enough to glance over my shoulder. The bedroom door was open. I knew I had closed it when I woke up. My stomach clenched, a cold wave rolling through my body. Something was in here with me. The air felt heavier now, thick with an oppressive weight, like the walls were closing in. I wanted to move, to run, but my body refused to cooperate. Then I heard it again. A step, a deliberate, dragging step, just beyond the doorway. My heartbeat pounded so hard, I could feel it in my skull. I slowly lowered the floorboard back into place, my fingers trembling. Whatever was out there, it knew. It had been waiting, watching, and now it was letting me know I wasn't alone. My phone was still in my hand, the sheriff's number glowing on the screen. I swallowed hard and pressed call. The ringing felt deafening in the silence. One ring, two, then, finally he answered. But before I could say a word, his voice came through, low and sharp. Don't move. My grip tightened around the phone. I wanted to respond, to ask what the hell was happening, but my throat had dried up completely. The sheriff's voice was calm, but there was something underneath it, something cold, almost resigned. Carson, he said again, quieter this time. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Whatever you do, do not turn around. My stomach dropped. I wasn't turned toward anything. I was still kneeling by the closet, facing the damn floor. But he wasn't talking about that, was he? He meant the door, the thing standing in the doorway. A cold sweat broke out along my back. I could feel it now, that same heavy presence from the night before. Watching, waiting, the silence stretched. So long I thought the call had dropped. Then, in the faintest whisper, the sheriff said, "How many knocks?" My blood turned to ice. My mouth opened, but no words came out. I hadn't told him about the knocking, about the 3 slow, deliberate taps at my closet door last night. But somehow, he knew. My fingers ached from gripping the phone too tightly. My entire body screamed at me to move, to get out, but I was trapped between 2 equally horrifying options: turn around and face whatever was standing there, or stay frozen and hope it lost interest. The choice was taken from me when the thing behind me took another step, closer. I squeezed my eyes shut, gripping the phone like a lifeline. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my body refused to move. The air in the room had changed. It was wrong now, thick and suffocating, like the oxygen had been drained from it. My vision blurred at the edges. My body knew what my mind refused to accept. I wasn't alone. "Carson," the sheriff's voice came again, firmer now. "You need to get out, but you have to do it right, right? What the hell does that mean?" I wanted to ask, but I didn't dare make a sound. Then he said something that sent a chill straight through my bones. "It's not supposed to be here yet." That was it. That was all I needed to hear. I wasn't waiting to find out what it was, or why it wasn't supposed to be here yet. I forced my body to move, every muscle resisting like I was wading through thick mud. "Don't look back." I kept repeating it in my head like a mantra, forcing my legs to work as I slowly rose to my feet. The room felt smaller now, the space between me and the door stretching like a warped dream. One step, two, the floor creaked beneath me, and the thing behind me moved. A deep, dragging shift, like something adjusting itself, reacting to my movement. My breath hitched. I could feel it now, tall, thin, and so close I swore I could feel the air shift as it breathed. I reached the doorway, my pulse pounding so hard I could barely hear the sheriff's voice on the phone. The hallway was right there, just a few steps and I'd be out of this room, out of this space where the air felt like it was pressing against my skin. But the second I moved across the threshold, the sheriff's voice came through, sharp and clear. "Carson, stop." My feet locked in place. My breath came in shallow, uneven gulps. "Do not step into the hallway yet," he said, his voice lower now, almost like he was afraid it would hear him. "It's waiting." I didn't understand what he meant until I saw it. The hallway wasn't right. It was too dark, like the shadows weren't just absence of light, but something else entirely, something alive. The floorboards, the walls, even the air itself. It all looked wrong, like a painting that had been smeared just enough to be unsettling. My stomach clenched. I had walked through that hallway 100 times, but now it felt like stepping into it would be a mistake I couldn't take back. My grip on the phone tightened. "Sheriff?" I whispered, barely able to push the words out. "What the hell is happening?" He didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was grim. "You broke the rules, Carson. Now it knows you." A cold chill ran down my spine at those words. "Now it knows you." My brain scrambled to make sense of it, to rationalize, but there was no logic that could explain what I was seeing, what I was feeling. The hallway was wrong in a way I couldn't describe, like it had been hollowed out and replaced with something that only looked like my apartment. My instincts screamed at me to back away, but I knew I couldn't stay here either, not with it still standing behind me. My fingers tightened around the phone. "What do I do?" I finally whispered, barely able to get the words out. The sheriff's response came after a long pause. "You need to leave, but you can't let it follow you." I swallowed hard, my throat dry as sandpaper. How the hell was I supposed to do that? I risked a glance at the hallway again. My gut twisted. The shadows looked deeper now, like they had moved when I wasn't looking. My body locked up as an awful realization settled in. It wasn't just waiting for me to step out. It was inviting me. My vision blurred at the edges, my pulse hammering. I had two choices. Go forward into whatever the hell had taken the place of my apartment, or stay here with the thing behind me, the one I hadn't dared to look at yet. A low creak sounded from the bedroom, the floorboards shifting. It was getting closer. I don't even know where to start with this, guys. I've been a cop for years, seen some messed up stuff, but what happened in that house in Hollow Creek, Arkansas, on March 21st, 2025, it's burned into my head and I can't shake it. I was kneeling there in my bedroom, staring at that damn loose floorboard with a kid's skull underneath, when I heard it a slow, dragging step right behind me. My whole body went cold, like someone dumped ice water down my spine. The sheriff was on the phone, his voice tight, telling me not to move, like he knew exactly what was in that room with me. The house itself felt alive, not just old and creaky, but wrong, like the walls were watching me, judging me for digging into things I shouldn't have. It's this little two-story shack on the edge of town, all peeling paint and warped wood, windows so grimy you can barely see through them. I'd moved in thinking it'd be a quiet spot to restart my life, but that morning, it was like the house woke up and decided I didn't belong. My breath was stuck in my chest, and I could feel something standing there, just out of sight, waiting for me to screw up again. The air got so thick I could barely swallow, like the house was choking me on purpose. That dragging sound came again slow, heavy, like something was pulling itself across the floorboards toward me. I wanted to turn around so bad, just to see what the hell it was, but the sheriff's words kept ringing in my ears. "Do not turn around." My hands were shaking, still holding the phone, and I could feel sweat dripping down my neck. Even though the room was freezing, the house smelled off damp wood, mildew, and something sharp, metallic, like blood that had been sitting too long. Those old walls, covered in faded wallpaper with weird little flowers, seemed to lean in closer, like they were trying to trap me there. I couldn't shake the feeling that the thing behind me wasn't just some intruder, it was part of the house, something that had been waiting in the cracks and corners since before I ever set foot inside. My bedroom door was wide open now, even though I'd shut it tight that morning, and the hallway beyond it looked too dark, like the light just gave up trying to get through. I knew I had to get out, but my legs felt like they were glued to the floor. And that thing, it was so close, I swear I felt the air shift when it moved. I couldn't stay there, frozen like that, with the sheriff whispering in my ear like he was scared the house might hear him too. My chest was so tight I thought I'd pass out, but I forced myself to stand, slow as I could, praying whatever was behind me wouldn't notice. The floorboards groaned under my weight, loud and sharp, like the house was snitching on me. That dragging sound stopped, and for a second, I thought maybe it was gone. But then I felt it, this heavy pressure, like eyes boring into the back of my skull. The bedroom itself was a mess-old wooden bed frame, chipped paint flaking off the walls, a single bulb hanging from the ceiling that flickered even when it was off. I'd always thought it was just a rundown dump, but right then, it felt like the house was awake, like every crack in the plaster was watching me stumble toward the door. My phone was still pressed to my ear, the sheriff muttering something about not letting it follow me. But how the hell was I supposed to stop it? The air smelled stronger now, that bloody, wet stench mixing with something sour, like the house was rotting from the inside out. I took one step toward the hallway, and the whole place creaked like it was shifting, trying to keep me in that room with whatever was waiting. The hallway was my only shot, but it didn't look like a hallway anymore. It was a tunnel of shadow, stretching way longer than it should have. I swear, that house wasn't big, just a narrow upstairs with a couple rooms and a staircase, but right then, it felt endless, like the walls had stretched out to mess with me. My boots hit the floor, and each step echoed, loud and hollow, like I was walking on something alive. The wallpaper out there was peeling too, curling up in strips, and I could see dark stains underneath, like the house was bleeding through the paper. I kept my eyes straight ahead, refusing to look back, but I could hear it again, that slow, dragging shuffle, following me out of the bedroom. My skin crawled, every hair standing up, and I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles hurt. The sheriff's voice cut through, sharp and low. "It's waiting, Carson. Don't run yet." Waiting? For what? My stomach flipped, and I froze mid-step, staring at the staircase ahead. The railing was old, splintered, and the steps looked warped, like they'd been chewed up and spit back out. I didn't want to go down there, but staying up here with that thing wasn't an option either. The house wasn't giving me a choice. I stood there at the top of the stairs, my heart slamming against my ribs, trying to figure out if I could trust my own eyes. The staircase looked wrong, like the steps were tilting, sinking into the shadows at the bottom, and I couldn't see the front door anymore. Just this black pit swallowing everything. The house was playing with me. I could feel it the way the air got colder, heavier, like it was pushing me back toward that thing dragging itself behind me. Those walls in the hallway were closing in, not fast, but slow, like they were breathing. And the peeling wallpaper started curling even more, flapping like something was moving underneath it. I swear I saw a shadow flicker across one of the stains, quick and jerky, like a bug skittering out of sight. My breath was coming out in little puffs now, fogging in front of me, even though it wasn't that cold outside. The sheriff was still on the phone, his voice shaky now, saying, "You gotta move slow, Carson, or it'll know you're scared." No, I'm scared. I was way past scared. I was losing it, and this house knew it. That smell hit me again, stronger blood and rot, like the whole place was a corpse, pretending to be alive. I took one step down, gripping the railing so hard, splinters dug into my palm, and the whole staircase shuddered like it didn't want me leaving. The wood creaked loud, not just under my boots, but all around me, like the house was groaning in protest. Behind me, that dragging sound picked up again, closer now, and I could hear something else, maybe, scraping along the hallway floor. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I'd puke right there. I risked a glance at the walls beside the stairs, more of that faded floral crap. But now the flowers looked different, stretched out, like faces pressing through from the other side. The light from my bedroom was gone, snuffed out, and the only sound besides that thing was my own breathing, way too loud in my ears. I wanted to bolt, just sprint down and smash through the door, but the sheriff's warning kept me slow. Every step felt like wading through mud. The house was fighting me, shifting under my feet, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it was alive, that it was pissed I'd found that skull and broken its rules. Halfway down, I heard it a low, wet chuckle, right behind my neck. So close, I felt the air move. I froze on that staircase, my whole body locked up, that wet chuckle still echoing in my ears, like it was coming from inside my head. The air behind me went ice cold, and I swear I felt something brush the back of my neck. Not fingers, just this pressure, light and wrong, like damp cloth dragging across my skin. The house wasn't just creaking anymore, it was humming. This low, deep sound I could feel in my chest, like it was vibrating through the walls and into me. Those warped steps under my boots started shifting. Not a lot, but enough that I had to grab the railing tighter to keep from falling into whatever was waiting at the bottom. The shadows down there were moving now, swirling like smoke, and I couldn't tell if it was my eyes playing tricks or if the house was screwing with me on purpose. The wallpaper beside me, those creepy stretched out flowers, looked wet, like something was seeping through, staining the paper darker. My phone was still clutched in my other hand, the sheriff's voice cutting in and out now. "Don't look down, Carson. Just keep moving." But how the hell was I supposed to do that when every step felt like the house was trying to swallow me whole? That smelled blood, rot. Something sour was so thick I could taste it, coating my throat like I'd breathed in a slaughterhouse. I forced myself to take another step, my legs shaking so bad I thought they'd give out. And that's when the lights flickered. Not just the bedroom bulb that was already dead, but every damn light in the house. They buzzed on for a split second, casting this sickly yellow glow, then went out again, leaving me in near blackness. The hum got louder, angrier, and the walls started trembling, not like an earthquake, but like something inside them was pounding to get out. I glanced at the staircase wall, and I swear those stains under the wallpaper moved, crawling upward, spreading like veins. The dragging sound was right behind me now, so close I could hear the faint rasp of something breathing, shallow and uneven. My chest tightened, and I gripped the railing harder, feeling it twist under my hand, not break, but bend, like the wood was alive and fighting back. The house didn't want me to leave. I could feel it in the way the air pushed against me, heavy and thick, like it was trying to drag me back up those stairs. I was maybe 5 steps from the bottom, but the front door still wasn't in sight. Just that swirling darkness, deeper than it should have been, like the house had eaten the exit. My phone buzzed against my ear, the sheriff's voice barely a whisper now. "It's close, Carson. Don't stop." But stopping wasn't the problem. I was scared I'd never get out. I couldn't breathe right anymore, my chest heaving like I'd run a mile. But I was barely moving, just inching down those last few steps. Every one a fight against the house itself. That humming was deafening now, rattling my teeth, and the walls were shaking so hard I saw plaster dust falling from the ceiling, drifting down like snow in that dim, flickering light. The staircase felt alive under me, the wood pulsing, flexing, like it was trying to trip me up or pull me back. Behind me, that dragging sound turned into something worse, a slow, wet slither. Like whatever was following me didn't have legs anymore, just something sliding across the floor. I didn't dare look, but I could feel it, this heavy, suffocating weight pressing down on me, like the house was letting it get closer on purpose. The air was so cold my fingers were numb, clutching that warped railing, and the smell, God, that smell was choking me. A mix of blood and decay so strong I gagged. Downstairs, the shadows kept swirling, and I swear I saw shapes in them, tall, thin. Too many arms flickering in and out like bad reception. The house wasn't just a house anymore. It was a trap, and I'd walked right into it when I broke those stupid rules. I hit the bottom step, and the floor under me buckled, not broke, but sank, like it was soft, alive, trying to suck my boots in. My stomach flipped, and I stumbled forward, catching myself on the wall. The wallpaper was slimy now, wet and warm, like I'd touched something bleeding. The whole downstairs was wrong. The living room I'd barely furnished, with its sagging couch and cracked coffee table, was swallowed in that black haze, like the house had rearranged itself while I was upstairs. The front door should have been right there, 10 feet away, but it wasn't just a blank wall. Old wood panels stained dark, like it had never existed. The slithering stopped behind me, replaced by this low, gurgling noise, wet and deep, like something was choking on its own spit. My phone was cutting out bad now. The sheriff's voice just static with bits of words. Door? Bind. Don't let it. And then nothing. Dead silence except for that sound. The walls pulsed again, harder, and I heard a crack. Looked up and saw the ceiling splitting. Not falling, but opening, like a mouth showing teeth made of jagged wood. I was trapped, the house closing in, and whatever was with me was done playing. It was right there. I could feel it looming, waiting for me to turn around. I was shaking so bad I could barely stand, my back pressed against that slimy wall, staring at where the front door used to be. The house was screwing with me hard. Now the whole downstairs felt like it was breathing, the floor rippling under my boots like I was standing on something alive. That gurgling noise was louder right behind me, and I could hear it bubbling, like whatever it was had too much spit or blood in its throat. The air was so thick I could hardly suck it in, heavy with that rotten blood stench that made my eyes water. The walls down here were bare, just old wood panels, but they were sweating dark, oily streaks running down like the house was crying something nasty. My phone was useless now, just a dead weight in my hand. The sheriff's voice gone, leaving me alone with this thing and a house that wanted me dead. I slid along the wall, desperate for a way out, and that's when I saw the windows. They were there, those grimy, cracked panes I'd cursed when I moved in. But now they were blacked out, not just dark, but sealed, like something had plastered them shut from the outside. The ceiling kept cracking above me, wider now, and I heard something dripping, looked up and saw red, thick drops hitting the floor, pooling right where I'd been standing. I lunged for the window anyway, slamming my fist against it, hoping it'd break. But it didn't even rattle, just sucked in the sound like the house ate it. My knuckles stung, and I turned back to the glass. Because I couldn't take it anymore, I had to see what was behind me. Big mistake. It was there, in the middle of the room. This thing, tall and thin, hunched over like its spine was broken. Its skin, if you can call it, that was gray, stretched tight, and it didn't have a face. Just a smooth, blank slate where eyes should have been. But it was looking at mine, felt it, this cold, heavy stare that made my guts twist. The floor under it was wet, stained dark, and it didn't move, just stood there, head tilted like it was curious. The house groaned around us, walls trembling, and that gurgling came again, louder, like it was laughing through a throat full of muck. I couldn't scream, couldn't even breathe, just stared back, my whole body screaming to run but nowhere to go. The ceiling dripped faster now, splattering that red stuff all over, and the shadows in the corners started stretching, reaching out like they were part of it too. This wasn't just a haunted house, it was alive, and it let this thing in to finish me off. I couldn't move, couldn't think, just stood there, pinned against that blacked out window, staring at that faceless thing while the house closed in around me. It didn't come closer, but it didn't have tootha. Air was doing it for it, getting so heavy I felt my knees buckle, like the whole place was trying to crush me flat. The walls were pulsing now, not just shaking full on, throbbing like a heartbeat. And those oily streaks running down them started pooling on the floor, mixing with the red dripping from the ceiling. My boots were stuck in it, this sticky, warm mess that smelled like death, and I gagged so hard I almost lost it right there. The thing tilted its head again, slow, and that gurgling laugh came bubbling out, wet and deep, like it knew I was done for. The house was helping. I could feel it the way the floor tilted under me, sloping toward that thing like it wanted me to slide right into its arms. Those shadows in the corners were thicker now, stretching up the walls, and I swear I saw hands in them, long and bony, clawing at the air. My chest was screaming for air, but every breath tasted like blood and rot, like the house was feeding me its insides. I snapped out of it just barely and threw myself sideways, away from the window, toward where the kitchen should have been. The house fought me every step, the floor buckling and twisting, like it was pissed I was still moving. I hit the doorway, or what used to be a doorway now, just a jagged hole in the wall. The frame splintered like something had ripped through it. The kitchen was a wreck, the old linoleum floor cracked and curling, the sink overflowing with this black, tar-like sludge that stank worse than anything upstairs. The thing followed me. I didn't see it move, but I heard it, that slithering, wet sound trailing right behind, slow and patient. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grab the counter, but I did, pulling myself forward, desperate for anything, a back door, a weapon, something. The cabinets were rattling, slamming open and shut on their own, and I saw it in the corner of my eve, the wallpaper peeling back completely now, showing raw, wet wood underneath, like the house was shedding its skin. That gurgling laugh echoed again, closer, and I felt the floor shift hard, throwing me against the sink. The shadows were everywhere now, crawling up the walls, and I knew the house wasn't letting me out unless it wanted to. I was gripping that sink so hard my fingers ached, the black sludge spilling over the edge and dripping onto my boots, warm and thick like it was alive. The kitchen felt smaller than it should have, the walls pressing in tight, and that slithering sound was right behind me now, too close, like if I turned, I'd be nose to nose with that faceless thing. The house was screaming around me, not loud, but this deep, grinding groan that shook the floor and rattled my bones. The cabinets kept banging, louder, faster, and one flew open right next to me, spitting out a cloud of dust and something else hair, long and dark, tangled in clumps like what I'd found under the floorboards. My stomach lurched, and I stumbled back, slipping in that sludge, barely catching myself on the counter. The air was so cold my breath fogged, but my skin was burning, like the house was cooking me alive while it froze me out. Those shadows on the walls weren't just moving now, they were reaching. Long, thin fingers stretching toward me, brushing the air inches from my face. The gurgling was constant, a wet, mocking sound, and I could feel that things stare, even without eyes, like it was peeling me apart from the inside. I couldn't stay there, I had to move, even if the house didn't want me to. I shoved off the counter, half running, half falling toward the back of the kitchen where the back door used to be. It was gone, just a blank stretch of wall now. Wood so warped it looked like it had been chewed up and spat out, dripping with that same oily crap from upstairs. The floor tilted hard, like the house was trying to throw me back toward that thing, and I crashed into the wall, my shoulders slamming into the wet wood. It gave a little knot breaking, but bending, like it was soft, alive, and I felt something push back from the other side, slow and heavy. My heart was pounding so loud I couldn't hear anything else. But I knew it was still there, that slithering, that gurgling, right at my heels. The ceiling above me cracked open wider, raining down more of that red muck, splattering my arms, my face, and I wiped it off, gagging, my hands shaking so bad I could barely see straight. The house wasn't just alive, it was hungry, and I was the idiot who'd woken it up by breaking those rules. The shadows closed in tighter, brushing my skin now, cold and slick, and I felt it, the thing's breath, hot and wet, right on my neck. That breath on my neck snapped something in mine. Couldn't just stand there waiting for it to grab me. Rules or no rules. I spun around, shoving off that soft, bending wall, and bolted back through the kitchen, my boots slipping in that black sludge like it was trying to glue me down. The thing was right there. I saw it again. That tall, hunched shape, faceless and gray, just standing in the doorway, blocking my way back to the stairs. The gurgling stopped, and it went dead quiet, too quiet, like the house was holding its breath, waiting to see what I'd do. The kitchen walls were oozing now, that oily stuff pouring down in streams, pooling on the floor, and the air was so thick I could barely move through it, like wading through water. My chest burned, my lungs screaming, but I didn't stop, I couldn't. The shadows were all over me now, brushing my arms, my face cold and wet like dead hands, and the ceiling kept dripping, splattering my shoulders with that warm red muck. I didn't know where I was. Running to the house had eaten every exit, but I had to try, even if it was just to get away from that thing staring at me with no eyes. I hit the living room again, slamming into that sagging couch, and the whole room tilted like the house was flipping itself upside down. The floorboards cracked open under me, not breaking, but splitting, showing this dark, wet gap that stank worse than anything I'd smelled yet, like death, but older, deeper. I scrambled back, my hands clawing at the couch, and that's when I saw the front door was back, right there where it hadn't been before, old and warped, the paint peeling off in strips. My heart jumped, hope hitting me hard. But then I heard it, that slithering, fast now, coming from the kitchen. The thing was moving, not patient anymore, and the house groaned louder, the walls shaking so hard the cracked coffee table slid across the floor and smashed into the wall. I lunged for the door, my hand slipping on the knob. It was wet, slick with that oily crap, and I yanked at it, screaming inside my head for it to open. The shadows were closing in. The dripping from the ceiling was a steady stream now, and I could feel that thing right behind me, its breath hot and ragged. The house didn't want me to leave, felt it fighting me, the knob sticking, the air pushing back, but I wasn't staying in this hellhole a second longer. I yanked that doorknob with everything I had, my shoulders screaming from the strain, and it finally gave just a crack, but enough to let in a blast of cold air from outside. That air hit me like a punch, clean and sharp, cutting through the rot and blood stench that had been choking me inside. The house freaked out, the walls slammed inward, not subtle anymore, like it was trying to crush me before I could get out. The floor buckled hard, throwing me forward, and I barely caught the doorframe, my nails digging into the peeling wood. Behind me, that thing let out this sound, not a laugh anymore, but a low, guttural hiss, pissed off and close. So close, I felt the heat of it on my back. The shadows went nuts, thrashing around like they were alive, grabbing at my legs, my arms, cold and slick as they tried to drag me back in. The ceiling was pouring now, that red muck splashing everywhere, soaking my clothes, my hair, and I could hear the wood splitting wider, like the house was ripping itself apart to keep me. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I just shoved my body through that gap, scraping my arms on the jagged frame, desperate to get out of that alive nightmare. I stumbled onto the porch, hitting the ground hard, gravel biting into my palms as I scrambled to my feet. The house didn't let go easy. The door slammed shut behind me, so loud it echoed in my skull, and I felt this pull, like invisible hands yanking at me, begging me to come back inside. I turned, just for a second, and saw it through the grimy window, that faceless thing, standing there, pressed against the glass, its head tilted like it was studying me. The walls were still moving, bulging out now, and that red stuff was seeping through the cracks, pooling on the porch like the house was bleeding out. My chest was heaving, my hands shaking so bad I dropped my phone in the dirt, and I could still hear that hiss, faint but there, like it was pissed I'd made it out. The air outside was cold, too cold for March, and the trees around the house were dead quiet. No crickets, no wind, just this heavy silence pressing down. I backed away, step by step, watching that shackled, sagging, with its chipped paint and broken gutters, like it was gonna lunge at me. I swear, even out there, I felt it watching, waiting for me to screw up again. I kept backing away, my boots crunching on the gravel, my eyes locked on that house like it might come after me if I blinked. The porch light flickered on yellow, weak, buzzing like a dying bug end it shouldn't have, 'cause that bulb's been busted since I moved in. The whole place looked alive still, the walls settling down slow, like it was catching its breath after spitting me out. That faceless thing was gone from the window, but I could feel it somewhere inside, waiting, like it knew I'd be back. My hands were still shaking, coated in that red muck, and I wiped them on my jeans, but the smell wouldn't leave blood and rot, stuck to me like a mark. The air out there was dead, no sound, no movement, just this thick, empty quiet that made my skin crawl worse than the noises inside. I grabbed my phone from the dirt, screen cracked but glowing, and bolted to my car, not caring how I looked, just a sweaty, freaked out mess running from a shack that shouldn't exist. I peeled out of their tires, spinning, and didn't stop till I was miles away, heart still pounding like it had never slowed down. That house let me go, but I don't know why, Ann. I don't know what it wanted from me. Here's the crazy part. When I got to a gas station later, trying to calm down with a coffee, I checked my phone 3:34 a.m. Everything in that house, all that hell, happened in less than an hour. It started with that knock at 3:33, and then just stopped, like someone flipped a switch. I drove back the next day, couldn't help it, had to see if it was real. The house was there, same old dumpling paint, sagging roof, windows dark and grimy, but it was quiet, normal, like nothing happened. No red muck, no shadows, no thing inside. I didn't go in, hell no, but I stood there, staring, and it felt wrong still, like it was pretending for me. I've got no answers, guys. No idea what that was, why it stopped, or what it meant. I'm not sleeping right. Keep hearing that gurgling in my head, and sometimes I smell that rot out of nowhere. Hollow Creek's got rules for a reason. I get that now, but that house? It's something else, and I don't think it's done with me.